The biblical principle of stewardship. As Christians, we are called to be good stewards of God's creation, and having a garden is one practical way to fulfill this responsibility. In Genesis 2, verse 15, God placed Adam in the Garden of Eden and instructed him to work it and take care of it. This demonstrates that cultivating the land is not only a means of providing food, but also an act of obedience and care for God's creation. By growing our own food, we acknowledge God's provision and take an active role in sustaining the resources He has given us, providing for our families. One of the primary reasons for having a garden is to ensure that our families have access to fresh, healthy food. In a world where processed and unhealthy foods are prevalent, growing fruits, vegetables, and herbs allows us to nourish our families with wholesome, God-given produce. Proverbs 6 verses 6 to 8 encourages us to be diligent in preparing for the future, just as the ant stores food in the summer for times of need. A garden is a tangible way of practicing wisdom and foresight in caring for our loved ones, helping those in need. Christians are called to serve and provide for those who are less fortunate. Proverbs 19 verse 17 states, "Whoever is generous to the poor lends to the Lord, and He will repay him for his deed." A garden allows us to give fresh, nutritious food to those who may not have access to it, whether through a church pantry, local food bank, or direct giving. The produce from a garden can be a lifeline for struggling families. This simple act of generosity reflects God's love and meets both physical and spiritual needs, promoting self-sufficiency and preparedness. In uncertain times, growing our own food helps us become more self-sufficient and prepared for potential hardships. Proverbs 21 verse 20 says, "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down." A garden ensures that we are not entirely dependent on grocery stores, which may experience shortages. By learning and teaching gardening skills, we equip ourselves and future generations with the ability to sustain their households, reducing reliance on commercial food systems. Gardening as a form of trade and community building. Beyond feeding our families and the needy, gardens provide an opportunity for trade and barter within the Christian community. The early church shared their resources, as seen in Acts 2 verses 44 to 45, where believers had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Today, we can practice this principle by exchanging homegrown produce with others, fostering community bonds, and ensuring that everyone has what they need. Trading surplus fruits, vegetables, or herbs for other goods or services strengthens relationships and encourages mutual support among believers. Reflecting God's design in nature. Gardening is a direct way to experience and appreciate God's design in nature. Jesus often used agricultural parables to teach spiritual truths, such as the parable of the sower in Matthew 13 verses 3 to 9. By tending to a garden, we witness firsthand how life grows from the smallest seed, reminding us of God's faithfulness and the importance of sowing both physical and spiritual seeds. Gardening can be a deeply spiritual practice, allowing us to connect with God through His creation. Teaching biblical principles to children. A garden is also an excellent way to teach children biblical values, such as patience, hard work, and faith. Galatians 6 verse 9 tells us, "Let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap, if we do not give up." Gardening requires persistence, care, and trust that God will provide the increase. Teaching children to plant, nurture, and harvest food instills in them an appreciation for God's provision and a sense of responsibility for His creation. Environmental and health benefits. God calls us to care for the earth, and gardening helps reduce our environmental footprint. Large-scale farming often relies on harmful pesticides and excessive resource use, but home gardening allows us to grow food naturally and sustainably. Numbers 35:33-34 warns against polluting the land, reminding us that we have a duty to protect God's creation. Additionally, consuming homegrown, pesticide-free produce leads to better health and well-being, allowing us to better serve God and others. Gardening as a ministry opportunity. Gardening can also serve as a ministry tool, bringing people together for a shared purpose. Community gardens at churches can become places of fellowship, outreach, and discipleship. In John 15, verses 1 to 2, Jesus describes himself as a true vine and his followers as branches that must bear fruit. A church or personal garden symbolizes this principle, providing both physical nourishment and spiritual opportunities to share the gospel with neighbors and those in need. Conclusion: a call to cultivate and give. As Christians, growing a garden is more than just a hobby. It is a means of providing, giving, and glorifying God through his creation, whether for feeding our families, helping the poor, trading within our community, or teaching future generations. A garden is a powerful way to live out biblical principles. By embracing this practice, we reflect God's love, stewardship, and provision, ensuring that his blessings extend beyond our homes and into the lives of others.